And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in person. We have 7 people online. As more people join us, we'll go ahead and let them come on in. My name is Rhiannon Sisson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Berrien County Historical Association, if you don't know me already, and if you do, glad to know you. And this is our October Thursday Night at the Courthouse Square series talk, Growing Up House of David. And we've been doing some new technology here, so do bear with us. We are recording this, so if you know someone who cannot come tonight, it will be on our YouTube page. You can access that through the YouTube link on our website, berrienhistory.org, which is brand new, just went up live in August. It's very pretty, very proud of it. And just a few announcements. We are currently, I do want to apologize by looking this way, we are currently renovating the permanent exhibit downstairs. And all I've done today and yesterday was paint, as evident by the lovely white streak in my hair. We're short enough to climb into the cases, so that was very exciting. Our next TNC talk will be next month. It'll be November 8th, and that's going to be the Gulfmore Hotel with Tom Sush. And we're pretty excited. We haven't really talked too much about the resort history of Berrien County here, so we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. We have coming up this Friday our Haunted State Street Tour in St. Joe with the Heritage Museum and the Twin City Players. Tickets still available, $10 for adults, $5 for children. And of course, our cemetery tours are going to be the 24th this year, rain date the 25th. So far, it looks like we're going to have some good weather for Saturday. You can sign up online at berrienhistory.org under reoccurring programs, or you can contact us and we'll process you through our side of the link. We will also take people day of, but do keep in mind there are limited spots in each section, and there will be, I believe, there are 7 tours available on Saturday. They're every half hour. Masks, this, that, and the other. We ask for that. If you need anything, you can always contact us, 269-471-1202. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Debbie. We will be screen sharing, so those of you at home will see this on your screen. Those of you here in person will sort of see it on the screen here. So give me just a second to screen share so we can go ahead and go. And you guys should be able to hear online. For those of you who are in the online and Zoom, please make sure to put your questions into chat and make sure your mic is on silent. Okay, so you guys will be seeing a different version than what the guys in person will be seeing, but we are going to get through it. Okay, all right, Debbie, it is all you.
All me with a brand new microphone. Thank you very much. Thank you all that can come, and all of you that are online as well. My name is Debbie Boyersmith. I'm from Harbor, born in Benton Harbor. My family's been here quite some time. They originally came to the House of David in about 1903. And I grew up in the area and learned all about going to the park as a child. I heard stories my whole life from my grandparents and my parents. And these are just some of the things that I kind of remember.
Next point.
All right, we're going to get to the first slide here. This is my grandfather. He came here as a young child to the House of David. He played on the junior baseball team. He learned his trade as an engineer. You can see him here, he's working on the little trains. I don't know if he's maintaining them or building them, but it's probably sometime in the 1920s. After he left the colony, he took a job as an engineer at Whirlpool. He was a model maker. So he would take the blueprints and then make the initial part, and then they would take that and make molds, make parts for the dishwashers and whatever it is they were making at the time. So his training served him well. He would always tell us stories about growing up at the colony as a young boy. He said, you know, how many kids get to grow up in an amusement park? It was great. You know, there was always something to do. There was, you know, fun. There was food. There was, you know, camaraderie with the boys playing baseball and that sort of thing. And on the other side, my grandmother, who we ultimately married, she was from the Meldrum family that came out of Colorado Springs. She's the second one from the left in that picture, which Brian from the house which is dated to about 1908. This would be right off of Berrien Avenue, looking northwest. In the back, you can see the little round building that was the aviary where they had the birds. I think its last use was as a shoe shop, if I remember correctly. Edith was a fixture in the colony from the time that they joined in 1903 until she passed away in the early 1960s. Okay, next one. Edith married Chick Bell, who a lot of people remember as the master of ceremonies. He did the Wednesday night talent show and that sort of thing. My grandmother was into dancing, and she belonged to a couple of dance groups in town. And roped me in one time when I was about 6 years old to dance on the stage, which was a big thing for a 6-year-old. This is Chick and Edith. If you guys know cars, Tom, probably 20s. And that would be in front of Shiloh on the property there at the house at England. This is how I remember Chick and Edith when we would go to visit them. Lots of my memories are, you know, I grew up with it, so they were my aunt and uncle, essentially. They were, you know, going to visit the family. When I look back now, I didn't realize how special it was, you know, to be able to go into the big house and visit and run up and down the halls with the little dog Chico there. But when you went to the colony, you were always made to feel welcome. You were always a member of the family. Especially by the time I got to be a kid in the 60s, you know, there weren't many kids around, so you were kind of everybody's grandchild, and I made sure that you had a good time when we went to the park. And Edith would always meet us when we got there, and she would make sure we had tickets. These are some of the older tickets for riding the trains. The blue one on the left is the season pass that belonged to my grandparents. They would be there all the time for one thing or another. They did square dancing, there was entertainment, all kinds of things going on in the park. Music, shows, magic shows, all kinds of stuff. You know, and as a kid, you know, it was a real treat to go there and get my strawberry ice cream and ride the train and run around and look for the horses and stuff like that. Next one. So these are some pictures that my uncle gave me of about 1964, I want to say. This would be in the North Depot, right off Berrien Avenue. That's engine number 901, one of the ones that was made in the 1940s. My grandmother's off to the left, my aunt's in the back. Not too thrilled to be having her picture taken. I'm the one in the red dress in the middle, between my cousin John and my cousin Jenny. They would have been visiting from Colorado at the time. So then we got on the train, of course. This is the train ride. That's me on the left. That's my dad on the right. Cousin John front and center. This would be coming down Eureka Boulevard, which right now is the first street right after northbound at 139, right before you get to the trestle to go over into the park. This is one that's really special to me anyway. When I first saw it, I got it probably about 3 years ago. I hadn't seen it ever. We had been replanting these bushes and plants in the fountain area at the park, but were the volunteers there. And we were kind of guessing as to what would go there, what colors and what sorts of plants and stuff like that. You know, taking a guess from other pictures we'd seen, but we didn't really know. And my uncle brings out this picture, and in it is me with my hands in it at the far side. My cousins were all getting our hands in the water, of course. My grandpa, who was in the first picture you saw, is the guy with the white shirt down there at the bottom, taking a picture of them. And my aunt is waving. But what's really neat about it is that the plants that we had just put into the fountain are the same ones that are in that picture. They're the same kind of plants, they're the same color plants, and it was just by chance. We had no idea. I literally have not seen the fountain look like that since 1964. And somehow we matched it up, and we have the same kind of plants growing there now. Yeah. This one also kind of shows you, as a child, that's me on the left, of course, getting my hands in the water. The fountain was always, you know, kids are attracted to it. Even now when we have it running, you know, kids do the same thing, and it's really neat to see. That's Edith there on the right in the white dress with her little dog Chico. My dad's the next one in. My grandmother, which would be Edith's niece. Bernice is there in the blue dress, and my aunt's there in the red dress. But, you know, the things that you remember are strange, because I volunteer now at the park, so everything is really familiar to me. But when I look back at being that age, there are buildings that are there that I don't even remember. You know, we would ride the train over, we'd get off on the South Depot. You know, the first thing I had to do was run fast to look at the little miniature house, the dollhouse that used to be there. Then after that, of course, we had to play in the fountain for a while. And then it was straight to the pony rides. I don't remember the miniature autos. I don't remember some of the smaller buildings. Of course, I remember the stage, the beer garden. Even, you know, up until the 70s, we would still go there and eat at the beer garden, have some mock steak sandwiches, you know, things like that. But I have to say that the best thing about growing up with it is that you always felt family, you always felt welcome, you know. Everyone was just really nice, you know, the nicest people you could ever want to know. They would always answer any questions you had, you know. It was just kind of a magical place. I think people still kind of feel that today. They have good memories of the dancing and the music and things like that. And we're trying to bring that back so the new generations, you know, a lot of the kids now are the same age I was then that are riding the trains and making new memories. And that's really important, you know, to have good memories like that when you're little, you know. So if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here helping bring it back today, you know. So that's all I have really right now. I'm going to turn it over to Brian. Brian's going to talk about a couple of people, but one of them I also knew he was a friend of my grandpa. You're going to see a picture. Yep. Lloyd Gallagher, who was also a friend of my grandpa's. They grew up together. My grandpa left, but Lloyd was a lifelong member. And so, tell us some stories.
Unlike both Deb and Ron, I didn't grow up in the house. They were visiting at family here. My parents John come lately. But I was blessed to spend a lot of time with Lloyd Gallagher. He grew up at the house. He came there when he was 5 years old, 1918, came down to Saskatchewan with his family, with his mom, his dad, and his 2 sisters. And we sat for many hours talking, and he told me all kinds of stories about growing up there and how it was for him to grow up. And every story was great. Every story there was no bad stories of things that, you know, oh my goodness, this was terrible stuff. Simple things like, were you ever hungry? You'd have hunger pangs, but you were never hungry. There was plenty of food, and you know, he would just talk about all the things that he, and how much he enjoyed it. And he looked at it in a way that, you know, most people grow up with their relatives. So you have the situation where you get together for the holidays. That was every day for these people. A lot of them were relatives, and a lot of them were brothers and sisters to them, cousins to them in other ways, whether it be the faith or just being around each other. Kind of every day was fun for them. They had to work. People had to work and work hard. And even the kids did. But they had a really good life growing up, and they really learned some important skills. Debbie pointed out her father Earl. Lloyd became an electrician. Now he stayed at the colony, did all of that. He did outside. And so that was a skill he learned. When he first came to the colony, they didn't have room at the colony in 1918. It was full. So they stayed in Peter's Shores on the beach in a tent. And so he remembers that as, you know, he's leaving Saskatchewan. I mean, he's 5 years old. He doesn't understand what exactly is happening. He gets to live on the beach. And he said that was just wonderful. I mean, he got to go to the beach every day. So what a great thing for a kid till his two sisters threw him in the water when he was misbehaving. Then he learned that maybe it wasn't as much fun. His first memory of actually being in the park was the fact that he was sitting in the auditorium, and Benjamin was giving an outside speech. And during the middle of the speech, Benjamin looked up. He looked right at me and stuff. I was all scared and stuff. And I said, so we joked about it. I said, well, you know what he said? What? Who's that little blankety blank? You know, and stuff. So Lloyd said, yeah, it's probably true, probably true. But he remembers that as being his first experience with Benjamin, but his favorite experience with Benjamin was as a young boy, and also Debbie's grandfather, Earl, did the same thing. They were running the bases for Benjamin. Benjamin would show up when they had practice, team had practice. Benjamin would hit the ball, but he didn't run, so the little boys would run the bases for him. And this was just a wonderful treat to have the colony allowing you to run the bases with him, for him. And so everything he talked about was always great with all the kids, skating, ice skating in the pond, in the lake, stuff, doing tricks with John Tucker, who was very tall, and between his legs, Lloyd was a small man. And so I'd ask him, who was the best skater? Oh, that was Billy Link. He was the best skater. Best skater, bass dancer, best everything, on skills and stuff. But he remembers all of that and doing things with all the other boys. They lived together in rooms together. When they went out to the farms to pick produce, vegetables, they would have a bunkhouse. They'd all be up there, right? 10, 20 boys up there, which probably got a little rowdy, but they had fun. And that was, you had like going with your family, meet your brothers, your male cousins, and going out to a farm and working all day, but then having, later on that night, you're just all together. And he said it was wonderful. And he stayed, and those friends, most of those people didn't stay. Most of those young men didn't stay at the college. Lloyd was kind of a different one because he did stay at that age. But they stayed friends with him for so many years, and they would visit and stuff. And, not even stayed in the area, not once come visit their families. They were always his friends. He passed, or they passed, which most of them passed. He spent nearly 95 years at the colony. So he saw all the different changes and things that happened from 1918 on. And I asked him, what was the worst thing? And stuff. He couldn't really name anything that was bad, because even during the trials and tribulations of the 20s, up to the split in the 30s, he was young. This wasn't part of what he would understand. It wasn't things that he was involved in. So he didn't have bad memories. He just had really good memories. And I knew enough about the people, enough of the names and stuff, the people that he had forgotten. And we'd forget, we're nice. And so, the gals were pretty too, for some reason. I'm not sure about that. But Lloyd, he really enjoyed the time there. As far as schooling, went to school through the 8th grade. They had their own school there. When they got to the 8th grade, finished the 8th grade, they went to Lansing, went to the test there. That was the equivalency test. And most of them stopped at 8th grade and did the equivalency test and passed them. And they had people who were teachers already. Percy Walker had been a teacher. Bill Nelson had been a teacher. Mary Dearborn was one who taught the ladies. Henry Dearborn taught boys too. And I said, well, would you ever get in trouble at school? And he said, well, Bill Nelson would make sure you picked out your own switch. So he goes, yeah, that was, he goes, I had to pick mine out a couple of times. But it was just like the same thing. They had all the boys in one level, and girls in the other level. So you had kids from different ages and different classes together. He had a wonderful memory. This one right here. Here is Lloyd with his pet squirrel, Skeezies. And everybody knew about Lloyd and his pet squirrel. He would go downtown with his uncle Chris, who was a town buyer. He'd drive downtown and pick up stuff, and then he'd also make payments. And Lloyd always went with him. So he said he'd go to Penny's or Conky's or someplace, and he'd say, Lloyd, where's your squirrel? Open up his pocket, and there would be Skeezies. And Skeezies was kind of a mascot to him, and also all the boys there. And one time, Skeezies was lost. No one could find Skeezies. And so the the person who let Lloyd know was Brother Lane. And if anybody knows the history of the House of David, Brother Lane had his own way of doing things, which was slow, methodical, and never working. He wasn't the most popular one. And so, but he came to Lloyd and said, your squirrel is over there in the basket with onions. Lloyd went over there, sure enough, Skeezy was in the basket eating the onions. So whenever I'd say, well, tell me a good story about Brother Lane, he goes, well, we call Skeezy's. So I said, okay. And there was one good thing. The boys always had, being boys, you know, you tend to have attention span, not too long. And so sometimes you might be working and they didn't feel like working that hard, and so you start messing around. You always had to have a lookout because Edmund Bully was in charge of making sure all the boys and girls did their jobs. And if you didn't do it, he would grab you, would take you, and give you the worst job he could find. So it was always, if you're messing around, if you're playing dice or doing whatever you were doing, instead of working, you had one lookout. The lookout would say, hey, here comes Bully, look busy. So you'd grab your broom or whatever and go ahead and do that. Because you didn't want to get one of the bad jobs. He like Earl, was one of the engineers. He was in the picture as you saw earlier. And he was one of the engineers on the train. And he's right down there with Shep, the dog. This well-known dog. He's in a lot of pictures. He loved this. This is also another occasion where all the young engineers lived in the roundhouse, above the roundhouse. So they became close friends and had that kind of condition of living where you did have brothers, sisters, whatever you want to call them. They were right there. And all these gentlemen here, you had all sorts of wonderful stories to tell about each and every one of them. One thing I forgot to mention about the farm times was he always told a story of one of the gentlemen who ran the farm, later went to the city, they split was General Robertson. And he had it the same. He said he usually would say it to the boys or girls. He could, now little sisters, now little brothers, make sure you put some berries in the basket. And that was his way of eat enough, let's get back to put them in the basket. He became an electrician, did the high wire work. And I said, tell me about that. And he said, he was scared to death of heights. He did not want anything to do with heights. And so one day, behind Jerusalem, there was a windmill, brought the water out. And Lloyd was sitting there watching, and Frank Weiland, big strong Frank Weiland, was working on a windmill. He said to us, Lloyd, you want to go up there? Oh, no. He goes, come on, Lloyd. You go in there, I'll be right around you. You climb the inside, I'll be right around you. And he did. He walked right up climbed the thing with Frank Weiland. He got to the top, Frank worked on the windmill, and he sat there and he looked at the colony and stuff, and he said he didn't mind being up there. So that got him into being an electrician. But he said he always gave Frank credit. He says that he got his fear of heights taken away. When he first came to the colony, there was always the stories about how families were split up and things. He said when he first came to the colony, he actually lived with his mother for a while because he was 5 years old. His mother moved in with his aunt, and he said he stayed with her. So it wasn't, they didn't pull people and babies out of their hands and not allow them to do it. I think my mom probably put an end to that because she was a cook down in one of the basements. And she said, you're on my coattails way too much. So that ended his days of being with mom. Over there is Uncle Chris, and that's Lloyd here, and probably getting ready to go on one of their runs to downtown. This was Lloyd, it's 1933, and this is his idea. Uncle Chris. And there's Lloyd, the Lloyd I remember, because I got him when he was 94. So that was the Lloyd that I remember. And I can't ever say anything bad about the man. He's just one of the most wonderful people in the world. So, always had a good thing to say, always had a good chuckle. It's really happy to see people. He was really out for the man. Next person I just want to mention, this has really not a lot to do with growing up there, But this gentleman is Dominic Ziebart, and probably people don't know him or know his name. But if you went to the park and you saw the flowers, you saw the plants, this was the man you could thank for it, because that was his job. He came over the country. He was born in Italy, and he came over in 1905 and settled in Geneva, New York. His sister and brother-in-law were there. His sponsor would come. He became a florist there. And so, in between them, we don't know exactly, because he came to Cali in 1924. The story is that he was going to get married, and but his bride-to-be died of the Spanish flu. And so he was heartbroken, obviously, and then so then he still stayed there. And in the early 20s, some of the Traveling Preachers came out, and he listened to their word and thought this is what he believed. And so he ended up coming to Cali. He spent the next, well, he passed in 1980, so he spent the next nearly 60 years making sure that all those flowers looked nice and all those plants looked nice. Doing it without anything but a wheelbarrow. And Ron can tell a story about that, of helping him out in the later years. And here was a man who was very quiet, short man. He was probably one of the most dedicated people to Cali, because he didn't want anything. He wanted nothing. He had stayed in the same room on the 3rd floor of Jerusalem for nearly 60 years. Now, that may not make any sense to anybody, but if you knew this room, Jerusalem was in the wintertime cold, in the summertime hot. That was it. And he was on the 3rd floor. And I guess it worked good. Maybe to germinate things and stuff up there because it was so hot. But he stayed in that room for his entire life. That's actually where he passed away. He had a stroke, and then I said, "You want to go to the home? You want to go move down, make it easier?" He says, "No." It was many years ago, they gave me this room, and this is my room, and I stayed there. That's where he passed away. But there he is again. This is in the greenhouse, growing some plants, and that's him. That's Charlie Thomas, like the white. That's one of his creations. All the flowers and things. You don't have a lot of color pictures, but those who went there would remember them, I'm sure. Yeah, there he is with little Oscar Phillips. He was the law at the park, and some more of his flowers. That's there. Really polarized pictures. This is outside of Jerusalem, but we saw views of those wonderful flowers and things he did. Each Christmas, the colony would give people a little bit of money for they want to buy Christmas presents, or just as a gift. He always turned his money back. So thank you. I've got everything I need. And I keep a box, his books, his copies of the books that Benjamin wrote. Keep those in special box because they're the most tattered, torn, and marked books of any of them I've seen. You know, he didn't just open them up and never look at them. He read them each and every night. Only thing he ever did, he got him to buy him a radio. Saturday nights, when he got done with everything, he would listen to classical music. And that was all he did for fun in reality. He was a very happy man. He was fun-loving with other people, but he went about doing his job. And if there was a person who strived to be an Israelite and did the best job they could, it was not Mexico. Yeah, it's more of his handiwork. And like I say, we were at the park from the heydays and stuff and saw that. Remember all those wonderful things. And he would get up in the middle of the night, go out to the greenhouse, stoke the fires, make sure that was still going, did it all year round and stuff. And he was really quite a guy. And there is the fountain with all its glory, with showing really that was probably his biggest thing. That fountain, the beautifulness. Now we go on to Ron.
Well, it was very interesting. I knew those people when I worked at the House of David. I was in college, and it was my summer job, so I got to know those people as well. I perhaps have the one story amongst folks here tonight where my earliest memories of the colony, Berrien City of David, and honestly, my mother died when I was 23 months, and therefore I have no memory of her whatsoever. So my first memory of my mother was my grandmother, Sister Taylor, at Mary's house in the city of David, taking care of her. So the colony has been part of my life since day one. Coming and going as a child. This is my grandfather, and that's Mary Purnell behind him. He was a very accomplished man in many respects. He came from Australia, born in Sydney in 1887, joined the House of David in 1919, which means my family has been involved in this for 101 years. 1919, in 1920, the colony moved its grounds in Australia to a place called North Ryde, which is now part of Sydney. And my grandfather helped with the building of some of the structures of that colony. He stood with Mary in the Great Division in the House of David in 1930, so he was out of the colony after April 1st there. And as a builder, he built a summer home for the Worth family out of London. A summer home to sit by the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney, make money to come to America, bringing with him his wife, Sister Taylor, and my dad, Frederick Taylor. And coming to the colony, he became part of the building maintenance group that was there for many years. And as a listing of many things he accomplished with building within the colony, the 1937 addition to the apartments was one of his jobs of doing that. And in 1938, also they continued with that, talking about a dozen buildings for summer cottages for the tourist industry in summertime. He, in 1939, he helped with the building of the King David Hospital on Crystal Avenue, which no longer exists. The enterprises they were involved with the short last, but he did help with the building of that. In 1942, he helped with the design and helped build the extension of the studio building, which still exists in the colony properties. 1948, he built buildings along Britain Avenue at 1335 for the colony. 1945, he built a carpentry shop, which was the main shop for the colony, and which is my shop today. He used the same tools he used and so forth, same kind of tools, hand saws, plus the power equipment. In 1953, one of his last projects in the colony was to help build a rest home. Mary Purnell's last request for membership before she passed was to keep all the people home to the very end, if all possible. So he was involved with building the extension of the existing home into a multi-floor building that could be used, and it was used for 42 years. I was part of the crew there at one time as well when I came. So he's one of the unknown people. He was very accomplished, as I mentioned. Building. He's also a furniture maker and obviously a singer. Mary Purnell loved for him to sing in the meeting her favorite Scottish ballad called My Mary. He's also a musician. He played numerous instruments, played some wind instruments as well. And we have his banjo in the museum, which was a gift from my sister to the museum. And so he had many different accomplishments throughout him. Pretty much an unknown person in history, though. When you think of James Taylor, you're thinking of music. Pop music. This is James Taylor and City David. Okay, let's do another one. I'm not sure which one. Oh, that's Florence McCaslin. This is, I worked for Florence in the last 4 years of the House of David, Eden Springs Park Vegetarian Restaurant. She was the manager there. She came in 1918 from California. And this was a very special person. This is an early photograph of her, which I didn't retouch but she was a beautiful woman at 78 years old. And when I say beautiful, I'm not talking just about physical, I'm talking about character. Hardworking, sincere, honest, easygoing, polite. Just a real wonderful. You felt good around her. And I used to sit at the table when we had slow time at the restaurant and just talk to her about the old time. She was also a registered nurse, came with that quality, so she was very valuable in the House of David. Okay. Took care of the mortality last years, so she knew him very well, spoke very highly of his gentleness and quietness, and also his generosity and kindness to all people. So she gave me some great information, and plus some of the things he told her, which would come to pass. One of which was he told Florence that they would come to the House of David, that it would come down to one person would have to do the work of 10. And he also said, if people here gathered today could see where this is going, they would all pack their bags and leave. So there's lots of things she told me, because I was very curious about his character. You hear all kinds of things. I was studying the faith at the time, but I hadn't taken it up. And she was a very gentleman, because she knew well everything that was going on the inside, because she visited a lot of ill people and sick people throughout the colony, as well as having her management positions. And so she was well acquainted with everything inside and out. She also said, even though she stood against Mary in 1930, she had a very high respect, nothing but good to say about Mary Purnell, which I also very much appreciated. When I left the restaurant in this last year in 1973, I have a degree in fine arts, and there were several members of the colony there that worked in the restaurant that wanted me to join, to change direction, to join the House of David. And she came to me personally, and she says, Ron, she says, you go on with your art education, you come to the House of David when the Spirit draws you, and you're drawn to it by the Spirit. Don't come by people telling you and asking you. Which I thought was really wonderful, because that's the way it is. It's the Spirit drawing. I had the highest regard for this lady. Like I say, she was just a model of beauty, kindness, and at 23 and 24 years old, I said to myself, way out there, when you're 78, 79 land, there's some beautiful people, and this was one of them. And I was so pleased that I had a chance to get to know this lady. Okay, let's go on. Oops. Louis Manley has another. For those of you who remember the greenhouse, the city of David, Louis was the manager of that. He came in also in 1980. He was from Queensland, Australia. And Louis was a man that taught me many things. Taught me how to cut glass. We put 90 glass at the top of the greenhouse that summer. I'm still doing glass. Louis taught me concrete work. He taught me gardening. He taught me greenhouse things. He was accomplished in all kinds of things. He actually built the greenhouse as it exists today in 1935. In 1937, when you go down Britain Avenue and look at the restaurant building, the whole east half of it, the barrel, the east half, he designed and built in 1937 as an addition to the business thriving and going forward. So he's a builder. And Louis, one time, we had people come in, an old friend of his says, Louis, he says, I'm retired now, and I'm enjoying it, so I'm retired. And Louis looked at him and says, I'm glad to hear that. He says, I'm just tired. And the man just worked. I've never met anybody in my life that worked to the extent that the man did. He ran that greenhouse. He was there every morning at 5 a.m. He checked the heat in the evening, late at night, during the spring season when planting. And he taught me all kinds of things about recycling, which was the way in 1930 people didn't throw things away to recycle things. Little things like he never had any new nails. They always saved the nails when he tore something apart. They saved the nails for Louis. He would straighten them. And he told me, he says, Ron, when you take an old rusty nail and you drive it into a piece of lumber, it'll never come out. Once you hold it in that wood, you'll never get that out. He didn't use any, in fact, when I do tours of the greenhouse, I show Louis' box of nails. And it's quite a menagerie of everything you can think of in size and shape. They're all covered with rust. Secondhand glass. He made his own flats. He'd go to Chet Nichols downtown Benton Harbor, and Chet would save all the crates and the skids from things that came in their parts. And he gave them a Louis, kept them in a bin. I went down there personally with him, pickup truck and build them. He'd take them all apart, cut them all down, and make little boxes for plants. Plastic was already here. The Louis was not improved. It was wood. And just a generous, hardworking, when the greenhouse finished, 1976, 77 was last season. I was 24 years old, 25. Louis was 78, 79. And I was on the top of the greenhouse putting in glass, and Louis came up at the end of the greenhouse, walked that whole 2x4 ridge floor. Glass everywhere, down below, that's all it was. At 79 years. I was 23, 24. I wouldn't do that. Louis did. Amazing. Just an amazing man. He came to me after the greenhouse closed, and he said, I need something to do. He said, all I know is work. That's how I operate. I get up in the morning, I've got things to do. I want to do. So I gave him a job in the summertime. We were redoing the cottages. We had all these old screen frames for the porches we were no longer used. So all winter long, he tore apart all these screens, took off the screening, saved the lumber, saved the nails, everything, the molding and all. I still have some of that material. But it was beautiful material from the 1930s and 40s. It was beautiful lumber. But that's what he wanted. And he was happy as a little kid with candy. He had something to do. And kind, polite, generous. Another great lesson about the economy was Crystal Springs started its business because of Louis Manton, the florist business. Gerhard and Gunther had come from Germany in '33. They lived in a garage downtown Benton Harbor. And they came to Louis and said, Louis, will you help us get a start? We've got an education in Germany. So Louis set him up, and in 1933, 34, he was starting his greenhouse. So basically what they did was barter. They didn't have money. When I came to the greenhouse in 1974, Dennis, the son from Gunther, he and I were the guys that went between. We traded geraniums for different things back and forth. I can't remember the name of the flower now, but we traded things. There was no money. They were still bartering in 1974, 75. That's the way it was. And he put Crystal Springs on the map, basically. He gave it a chance to get going, and it's still going. And I always go over there and buy my spring plants from Dennis, and we go back to the days when we were the guys who were doing the back and forth with plants between two greenhouses. But wonderful man. Like I say, it was such a wonderful treat to know a person like that. Hard work, smart, knew how to do almost anything you could throw at him. Do another one. We've heard the old saying, mirror, mirror on the wall. Elizabeth Ferris done them all. Eunice Bond, very special person. I don't know anybody that knew her personally in the colony, outside the colony, that didn't think there was something very special about this lady. Let me tell you, I dealt with her for over a decade, and a very special person. Came from Christchurch, New Zealand in 1933. This is kind of interesting. Francis Thorpe in his journal says, Eunice and Alice Bond arrived to the colony, third day, third month, 33rd year. Sister Eunice told me in one of our conversations late in the day, after work hours, she made mention of that to me. She said, just as Bond, she said, when I got into the building in China, I looked at the clock, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. She was special. She was a hard worker. When I came, I was 25, 26 years old, and she'd come downstairs from the third floor about 5:30 in the morning, her little feet pattering down the steps. Quit the day at about 9:30 at night. She had numerous tasks throughout her history of the colony. Mary Purnell realized who she had when she had this Christchurch. In 1935, Mary waited 3 years into the organization to have bylaws and assign pillars of the church. I often wondered why. Finally came to me, we waited for 6 years because of the officers. There was one trustee, Mary Purnell was sole trustee. The board of 4 came later after her death. There were 10 pillars. Colony voted. 4, 5 males, 5 females. Well, there were only 9 voted. Sister Ray appointed Sister Eunice, no vote. Special rating. When Mary Purnell started receiving her oral communications for her book Heaven in 1939 and her book Paradise in 1944, she hired 2 ladies to take down scribble notes when she gave out her communications to the Spirit. She chose Sister Eunice to take these scribble sheets and turn them into punctuated script so they could take them to the print shop and print them. Which became, as I mentioned, the Book of Paradise and the Book of Heaven. So she had a position with that, close to Mary. Also, she became the editor of the Shiloh Messenger, the monthly paper, which we still put out. I published that myself. Worldwide following. Small, but still worldwide. She was the editor of that. I helped her in her later years with picking her articles. She was the correspondent for all the different correspondents throughout the world, which were many. We had people all over the world going to the college. She would answer them. And when she got up into her late 80s, well, the time was running out, plus she was tired, so she asked me to do some of the correspondence. And I always had her proofread them, so things were good. And she ran the apartment office, she ran the resort office at one time. And in 1961, there are 4 trustees, a board of 4 that were chosen after Mary Purnell's death. And in 1961, Bob Ferris had passed away at the Rocky Farm. He was the head of the board. So the board officer amongst themselves, which is law, petitioned new trustee out of the membership, and they chose Eunice Bond. Eunice had never served in the office of trustee, so they not only asked her to become the board of trustees, but they asked her to be the chairwoman of the board, which was unheard of. And she took it. She took it on and was that way until later in life, where she became unable to maintain those positions. To talk about a person that worked hard for a long period of time. I enjoyed her company so well. I enjoyed Sunday evenings with her in the parlor with our spiritual meetings. And one evening I said, Sister Eunice, I says, you never get out. You need some fresh air. We used to go out to Eastern Springs on Sunday morning and pick flowers for the Sunday evening service, just to get her out of the house, or take her out to the blueberry farm and pick some blueberries in the evening. Well, that evening was a beautiful summer evening after the Sunday evening meeting, and I said, come on, I want to take you, let's go for a ride, just get out and then go out to the lake. So we did, got her to go. We drove out to Dean Clock, and went around to Lions Park, Silver Beach, all through that area, and we got back up on the bluff, and she was looking over the whole scene. She said to me, she says, here's Ronnie. She says, I haven't seen this since 1933 when I was on the train coming over to Chicago. This was a gem. This is my favorite person I've ever known. I just can't tell you how much of a great experience I have had as a member living with a community of people, some of the most wonderful people. That's on both sides of the road. I enjoyed that. Lloyd Gallagher well. And to go step back to Brian with Dominic coming up in the restaurant when I worked there, going up to get bread for the restaurant, coming back with a pickup truck, and here's Dominic going down the driveway to Britton Avenue with his barrel of flowers for the park. I stopped and say, Dominic, I'll give you a ride. Took all the stuff out of the wagon, threw it through the wagon in the bag. He got inside. He says, Ron, he says, first time this has ever happened to me. Somebody's giving me a ride for flowers. I've been here 45 years. I came when I was 45. Taking his wheelbarrow down to the park full of all the flowers he saw. Another gym. And besides separation of the colony and the troubles and all that, I feel very blessed that I chose the life I did. And going into community living, let me say this about people who suggest that giving up everything and money and possessions is a big deal. I didn't give up anything. I got a lot. But I didn't give up anything. You go back to the book of Acts, the early church at Jerusalem, Holy Ghost comes down upon them. What happens? Share everything one. We call it the administration of the Holy Ghost. That's what the calling is, that's what the faith requires. And I'm glad I had the opportunity and people to accept me that I could live it. Otherwise, I would have no place in the world to go to live this faith. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask any of the three. If you are in Zoom, please mute your mics, guys, courtesy to others so they can hear what's going on in here. Direct your questions in the chat and we will read them out loud. But for those who are here, are there any questions?
My kids used to say to Louie, Uncle Louie, because we would go and pick up tomato plants that we ordered for our farm. And I would be the one, of course, going to pick them up, and my kids, this would be in the early to middle 50s. And so, you know, and he always got such a big kick out of the kids at calling them Uncle Louie. Yeah. But I grew up on Bus Avenue, which was only a few blocks from the house of David. And in our neighborhood, in those days, it was like late 30s, 40s. People would come over from Chicago on the boat, stay in the neighborhood because everybody had like one room to rent or that type of thing. And they could walk to the house of David, enjoy all the entertainment and the people, as well as walk to Benton Harbor. Because in those days, even though I'm sure there were trolleys, but I don't remember that. But they walked everywhere. Even I graduated in 49, and many of the boys that were in high school in the 46, 47, 48, they all worked in the railroad, in the train, you know, where they oiled everything, but also as engineers. So it was a really good bringing up for them and being with ideal people that gave you very good understanding of how to deal with something that you would never have had a chance to do otherwise.
I had a gentleman one time tell me that, I had a gentleman one time tell me that he lived right outside the park, and he and his buddies were messing around one day, and one of them decided to go across the trestle, but underneath. And one of the House of David members caught him and said, get off there and stuff. And so he said, well, I'm going to give you an option. You can, I can call the police, or you can pick up sticks for the next couple hours. And so the boy said, well, I'll pick up sticks, And the two other boys, they said, well, we didn't do anything. The guy said, no. Did you stop him? You pick up sticks too. He said that next year after that he came and he started working there. So he was emptying garbage, Dave Harrison, picking up garbage that was in the park and stuff. He learned to drive his vehicle there, stuff. He was 13 years old and he was driving the truck. And so, yeah, there's people who grew up around there who that was their first jobs, especially the boys and stuff. Got to be engineers and things like that.
Wasn't Chip the gang leader?
Yeah.
Did he have his own house on himself over there by the gardens?
No, he had an office up in, he had two offices. One was in the archway over the park, and then there was one over by it was over by the restaurant. Beer Gardens Club, I guess where they sold stuff there. No, he lived in the new house, which is the second portion of Shiloh. He had lived there.
One of them, I thought, had a house right there overlooking the gardens that he stayed in, right there. Man of Woodworth, he had his own house, but it was at the corner of at 139 Berrien Avenue. Now it's painted yellow. It's a big two-story building, and the basement was the electric shop, and then he just went there. And started in, I was 1935. But yeah, Chick Price spent a lot of time down there because he ran the park things also. But they lived in the new house. Did Chick stay with the
yeah, yes.
He came from Australia, too.
Pardon?
He came from Australia. He was one of the group that came.
We have a question from chat from Carol, and she wants to know, is the museum or gift shop open at the present?
It is. In fact, the museum is closed for the season. The gift shop hours on Sundays is closed, but we do have a big sale on the 17th on Saturday from noon to 5, which is kind of a big spectacular, which we prepared for all year. 2 buildings full of things, and for most people, we've probably never seen some of this because I'm right in the college. So if she wants to come out and that 17th, we're glad to see her.
And that will be at
Mary City David at 1204 East Berrien Avenue.
What's the time for the opening?
Noon till 5 o'clock.
October, you said 17th?
17th.
From 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Big sale. There. Look, I'm trying, folks. This is all new.
We don't mind it.
They may not mind. They may be against being guinea pigs. I appreciate you guys being the guinea pigs.
Earlier, Ron was talking about Louis Bennett. He said that he was our sort of person that did that. I said something about Ron, so I mean, this man is the hardest working person I have ever met.
And that's only today.
May I ask another question? Ron, how do you have to have finances to help do all the things that you do? And what is the process that you use to try to bring in some money? Because there's a lot of upkeep to that.
That goes back quite a ways. The colony, of course, have many businesses, which we no longer have. We do have a small number of rentals we still use. Basically, what it is now is bank account interest and investments. Healthy funds and investments. And the Summertime Museum is a small thing, but we've been doing well with sales in the gift shop. Also, there's several collectors in the area, and also Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, are big buyers of our collections of original things. Hamilton is well known for their research library. They collect communal societies like Shakers, Oneida, Harmonists, House of David, all that sort of thing. They collect things like that. So we've been blessed with that. One of the big purchases was the year of the 2009 crash, which pretty much replaced what they bought from us. So, and they're still doing that. In fact, my whole art collection from my years in art school, henceforth in the colony, they bought all of that collection and continue to buy all of my artwork. So I don't have to exhibit.
Another thing I can remember growing up sort of in that area is the fine craftsmen that were over there, the mirror people, those that did the art, like restoration and also the framing of really good artwork. And so there were a lot of talented people that came to the colony. And they were looking for a place to go from where their homeland was. Because like my dad came from Europe, which your sister and we have family that came from Germans from Russia. But things were not always so good back in their day, and they were looking for places to come where they could almost initiate things from the beginning, but they had good methods of doing work.
Both Benjamin and Mary, as leaders, knew how to place people too. Mm-hmm. You saw people who had skills and they utilized them, but then sometimes they were put in places that you would never thought that would be a place that person, oh, that's not something that we would want to do or would be good at. But people knowing their work ethic and knowing that the people would pick up on things and do things, they utilized that. There was a lot of that where it was delegation of things. People wanted to do things. They were working. Their work was their gift to God, and so you had that. And so yeah, they're very talented people. There's just an amazing amount of talent at both colleges.
Anything else? Yes.
I'm Ron's sister, Sylvia, and I work for Ron during the weekend, on the weekends when we had to work. And I wish they would be able to clone him. But one of the, aside from my grandparents, Grandma Taylor, I spent a lot of time with them because our mother died young, and I spent summers and weekends with Ron and my brother Bob at the Taylors. And I learned a lot from my grandpa Taylor because he would take me to his workshop with him. And so I always thought I would be an architect when I grew up. But women didn't do that in that age. So, but I studied art, and I think I got my brother enthused with art at that point in time.
Good job, Sylvia. Good job.
Well, I was like the mother. I was 10 and a half, and he was even 2 when she died. And and another person that really was a sweetheart was Michael Meany, and he was a bookbinder by trade and did a lot of other kind of work like that. But Sister Mary made him a baker. And every time I would go visit the bakery, Michael Meany, Brother Michael, would take me to the cooler where there was the frosting canisters, and with a cupcake paper and a spatula, he would dip in the chocolate frosting and so he was my favorite person for a long time. But anyway, it's so wonderful to have all this reminiscing. I just praise the Lord for you.
You brought up when you mentioned Brother Meany. Lloyd always told the story about Percy Walker was working in the bakery, and so Lloyd and some of the boys were asking him to, hey, give us a pie, give us a pie. Percy says, no, that's not the rules, you don't need pies. But they're asking, so he handed them all each a fork. And they said, well, the person was supposed to do this. Well, figure out something to do with it. He goes, well, why don't you give us a pie to eat? He goes, I can't give you a pie, I told you that stuff. Now I have to go over to the window and put some pies there to cool. And so later on when you're done doing whatever you do with your forks, you're going to bring them back and keep them all together. Maybe use like a can or something and put it in. And so when the boys went, grabbed the pie, and went over the tree and ate the pie and handed the things back.
right, well,
Thank you.
if there's nothing else,
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This will give me a week to do some editing. The 10 minutes that was recorded before we started was me basically complaining about technology. So we like to edit that out. It'll be on our YouTube page. So for those who have missed it, that link can be found by accessing our YouTube through our website, berrienhistory.org. Don't forget, we also have several events for those of you who were not here in the beginning. We do have our Haunted Cemetery Tour on the 24th, our Haunted State Street Tour on the 10th of this month, and you can access the links to purchase those tickets on our website. And we should be done with the painting and renovation of the new permanent exhibit sometime at the end of October, early November. Keep an eye out and come out and see Berrien County, Our Story Past. I want to thank you all for coming out. You guys have a great evening. For those of you who traveled here, have a safe trip home. And for those of you who are joining us from Zoom, have a great evening and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What I do wrong now?
Oh, you're in trouble.
They gotta call
Are the lights on in the bookstore or not?
Yes, all the lights downstairs were on. We just, when it's so bright in here, I forget to turn the lights on and it gets dark and I'm like, oh, I gotta turn the lights on.